Well, you probably noticed you're paying more at the pump. Gas prices are higher than they have been in years. Here to discuss this spike is Mark Finley, energy expert at Rice University's Baker Institute. Welcome to Houston's Morning Show. Tell you what, it couldn't be tougher timing. A lot of people taking road trips this summer. So sometimes you just want to know what is going on. So can you explain to us what is happening to those high prices at the pump?
Sure, Melissa. Good morning. Prices, as you noted, are their highest in over 6 years. And the simple reason is that crude oil prices are the highest in 6 years now as well. And that's basically what determines the price of gasoline. The national average gasoline price is about $3.20 a gallon, and that's up 85 cents just this year alone. In Houston, prices are significantly lower, not surprisingly, but they've also increased by 85 cents a gallon.
And then what about shortages of gasoline? Have you seen that around the country?
We've seen some isolated shortages of gasoline, but it's not because of fuel shortages. Rather, it's because of a shortage of tanker truck drivers as the domestic labor market has become very tight.
And sometimes when we're at the pump, it can be sickening to shell out that extra money. But then on the other hand, it's really good for our local companies, right? For the energy and the oil businesses.
It is. Domestic oil producers are on track this year to generate record cash flow. Although in a change from previous cycles, that cash flow is being returned to shareholders or to pay down debt rather than being invested in growing production again, which is one of the reasons why global oil prices are rising so strongly.
Yeah, we're seeing that too. Demand is strong there right now, right?
Absolutely. Global oil demand this year, after the COVID shutdowns last year, is likely to see all-time record growth as people get back to work and start traveling again. And I'm sure you're all seeing that in your daily commutes.
Well, let's talk more about what we were talking about as far as the good side of it all, because again, I think sometimes it takes the ouch out of having to pay more. Does this help with oil industry jobs? You were saying it might not necessarily be going in local pockets, but does it hopefully help give some more people a chance to get work?
Jobs are growing again in the oil and gas sector. We see that investment is rising, although the increase is relatively measured. I mean, the rate of growth in, for example, the use of drilling rigs in Texas and nationwide is, it's positive. So that's the good news. The bad news, it's not the gangbuster growth that we saw in previous upsides of the oil price cycle because the industry is under pressure to return more of that cash to shareholders now.
Is there any indicator that you can tell when those prices might stop rising, when it might cap off, or even when it might go down? Is it just too soon to say at this point?
Right. When I worked in industry, we used to always joke that if you could predict the price of oil, you wouldn't be here, you'd be laying on a beach somewhere. But there is one thing we do know about prices at the pump. They follow the price of crude oil with a lag. And crude oil prices have grown by about $10 a barrel over the last month. So even with no further change in oil prices, we can expect national prices at the pump to continue rising for another couple of weeks. Beyond that, I think the key factors are watching the global marketplace evolve. Will global oil demand continue to recover, or will the new COVID variant cause a slowdown in global demand, especially in emerging economies where the vaccines aren't as widespread? On the supply side, will U.S. producers continue to be disciplined in their cash flow management? And I think the other big factor, which you've seen in the news just yesterday, is the so-called OPEC Plus group, OPEC Plus cooperating countries like Russia, are still holding 6 million barrels a day of supply off the market to try to support prices. Will they continue to that discipline, or will the disagreement we saw yesterday between Saudi Arabia and the UAE lead to greater cheating on quotas? Those are the factors that I'm watching as I think about where the future path of crude oil is, and the future path of crude oil will determine the future price at the pump.
You do a great job of making this all interesting and make sense. So I am most appreciative for that. And then important to note, it sounds like they'll keep rising those prices for the next few weeks. So any summer trips, people need to definitely financially plan to pay more for their gas. Mark Finley, thank you for your time from Rice University's Baker Institute today.
My pleasure, Melissa. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.